Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about Facebook because Facebook will no longer remove claims that COVID-19 was man-made. Here's what you need to know. This is really interesting. I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and this is coming from Politico, who first broke it, CNN, and other sources as well. I'm primarily cribbing from CNN, though, because I thought they were more concise, as I read about half a dozen articles on this, like I usually do. Now, Facebook is saying that they're no longer removing from its platform claims, as I mentioned, that the coronavirus was man-made. That announcement came shortly after President Biden announced that he had directed U.S. intelligence to redouble its efforts into the origin of COVID-19. And in a statement, a Facebook spokesperson said yesterday that, and I quote, "In light of ongoing investigations into the origin of COVID-19 and in consultation with public health experts, we will no longer remove the claim that COVID-19 is man-made from our apps. We're continuing to work with health experts to keep pace with the evolving nature of the pandemic and regularly update our policies as new facts and trends emerge." And I've got thoughts on that real quick. Now, before I dive into that, I want to talk about, or rather, I want to continue this. President Biden announced yesterday that he has given U.S. officials 90 days to investigate the virus's origins. The announcement came after U.S. intelligence reports found several researchers at China's Wuhan Institute of Virology had fallen ill in November of 2019 and had to be hospitalized. That's a new detail that has basically fueled fresh public pressure on President Biden, essentially to have his teams look deeper into the origin of the virus. And I quote, "As part of that report, I have asked for years, I've asked for areas of further inquiry that may be required, including specific questions for China. I have also asked that this effort include work by our national labs and other agencies of our government to augment the intelligence community's efforts. And I have asked the intelligence community keep Congress fully appraised of its work." Obviously, that is a quote from President Biden. Now, Facebook announced in February that it would start removing claims that the virus was man-made following, quote, "consultations with leading health organizations, including the World Health Organization," and on. Now, the social network has also been pulling posts that spread vaccine misinformation and other false claims that have been debunked by public health officials, and those continue to stand. And so here's my thoughts on this. I'm actually a fan of Facebook's reversal here. I think that both news publications and other platforms like Facebook that are more interested in facts and investigation should make changes like this when more information comes to light. I think one of the best things and one of the best things that a reputable source can do is actually to print a retraction and then own it. It's transparency, it's honesty, and it actually helps quell hyperbole, because what happens is a lot of people don't read the retractions and say, aha, they were lying or whatever. You have to own that publicly, and I think this is one of those cases where Facebook is doing that. And in Facebook's case, they basically saw the reporting and then they adjusted accordingly as a platform that lets others share and publish news sources. I'm overall not a fan of Facebook. If you followed me for any significant amount of time, you know this, but I have a public account there and I applaud them for this move. It shows transparency and it shows honesty as facts change on the ground. And on that note, though, of whether this virus was man-made or not, I'm honestly not here to adjudicate that. You can believe if it's man-made or it's not, it's natural, whatever that is. I don't think personally that we have enough evidence to say one way or the other, and this is what I've maintained, is basically since the beginning. And I think the biggest hurdle to understanding the origins of this particular infection happens to be the secretive Chinese government that has been very reticent to share information. They moved very quickly when this infection hit early in 2020, and so that's always been speculation, but that's what it is. It's speculation. At this point, all we have is speculation honed by what we know based on scientific research, but that hasn't stopped the rampant hyperbolic posts and fringe quote-unquote news sites from basically spinning everything to a general population that isn't really educated on science. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with 3 quotes, basically from an article in Nature regarding this situation that I thought were appropriate given this new development. And I quote, "But for many researchers, the tone of the growing demands is unsettling. They say the volatility of the debate could thwart efforts to study the virus's origin. Others worry that the rhetoric around an alleged lab leak has grown so toxic that it's fueling online bullying of scientists and anti-Asian harassment in the United States, as well as offending researchers and authorities in China whose cooperation is needed. The debate over the lab leak hypothesis has been rumbling since last year, but it has grown louder in the past month, even without strong supporting evidence. On 14 May, 18 researchers published a letter in Science arguing that the idea of the coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 leaking from a lab in China must be explored more deeply. It points out that the first phase of a COVID-19 origins investigation sponsored by the World Health Organization, which released a report in March, focused more on the virus coming from an animal than on its potential escape from a lab. For example, the report mapped a large market in Wuhan, China, and stated that most samples of SARS-CoV-2 recovered there by investigators were found around stalls that sold animals. Many virologists say this focus is warranted because most emerging infectious diseases begin with a spillover from nature, as seen with HIV, Zika, and Ebola. Genomic evidence also suggests that a virus similar to SARS-CoV-2 originated in horseshoe bats before spreading to an unknown animal that then passed the pathogen to people. So before screaming it was man-made or screaming it was natural, let's all take a step back and breathe and wait for that more needed information. Because as long as we are looking at the science and as long as we are understanding the facts, those will help guide us. We just have to be transparent while we do it. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.